Welcome, America. You're all at lockdown, and I want you to listen to this particular program, which is unique. To my knowledge, it's never, ever been done before. I want you to know you are going to be listening for the first time to the Quiz You at Home. It's a contest between me asking you questions and you raising your hand to give me the answer. Well, let me just explain. This is really the first lockdown contest where the band is at home at lockdown. The beautiful blonde lady who would reveal the numbers at home at lockdown. And everybody else, especially the big crowd at home at lockdown. So are you ready? I'm going to ask you a couple of very simple questions. If you know the answer, let me know by raising your hand. My first question. Number one. What is America's most popular song? I'll give you a second or two to think about it. I see. A lot of you are thinking it might be God Bless America. Not a bad choice. It may be something else similar. Well, let me tell you what the first and most popular song is in America. Happy birthday to you. We know that little song from the time we're little babies until we're as old as I am. And another question that I would like to ask. What is, or I should say, which is the world's, and especially America's, most popular logo? The logo, a symbol of that product or service. Now that's a more difficult question. The most popular advertising logo. Just think, who is the biggest advertiser in the world? Raise your hand. Do you know the answer? I think you will be surprised. I saw you raise your hand and you thought it might have been Coca-Cola. Wrong. You might have thought, oh, it's Facebook. Sorry, you're wrong. America's largest and most consistent advertiser is the Christian faith. You're saying, what? What are you talking about, Earl? Have you ever ridden by a church or chapel, whether it's a large edification or a little small white church? What does it have in common? A cross on top of it. If you ride by any seminary, any hospital that is run by the Catholic faith, what are you going to see? A cross, possibly a statue of the Jesus. They are everywhere. On Sunday, do we hear bong, bong, bong? Come all ye faithful, let's worship together as a congregation, praying for guidance from God. It is just something that is, well, it puts it into the mind of everybody who practices that faith. Never to forget it. Morning, noon, and night. God is looking over you. Now, that doesn't mean that God isn't looking over everybody, because we are all God's children. No matter your faith, no matter your skin color, no matter your gender, no matter where you or your parents were born, we are all God's children. The point I'm trying to make, it doesn't matter whether we are in a studio now doing this little quiz contest, or whether we were in a house of worship. I want each of us to think. I'm 93 years old, a World War II veteran. I bet I didn't always look that old. Not always. And I'm sure many of you also were 8 or 9 years old at one time. Believe it or not, I was too. And one time I heard the word moral code. and I didn't know what it was. I went running into my mom and I said, "Mom, what is a moral code? Is that when the FBI or the Secret Service send messages on a teletyper to one another?" And my mom looked at me and she said, "Earl, that isn't a moral code. A moral code is something we put into our brain. The things that you want to do which are right, which are proper for the way to live, to make things better." Mom, do I have a moral code? Earl, run into your bedroom. Think about it for a few minutes. Think about it. Think if you have a moral code, what would it be? So off I went, running into the bedroom, and I wrote down on a couple of words. Well, I came running out, "Mom, I wrote down my moral code, but it's only 6 words. Mom said, "Don't worry about it, Earl. Please tell me what it is." And I said, "Well," hesitatingly, "number 1, love God. Number 2, make friends, because, Mom, I want to have a lot of friends that play baseball and football and basketball with me. And number 3, I want to serve others." Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you a true story. My mother stood up from the breakfast table, got over me, put her mouth into my ear, and whispered, "Earl, I love you. Don't ever forget your moral code." Well, I can't ever forget it. And I've tried to keep those words. Now, we all make mistakes, but every time I make a mistake, I say, "God, please forgive me. I won't do that again." And I've tried to keep that, and I'm not boasting, and I don't know for sure, but I would say 99.9% of the time, I've tried to live up to loving God, making friends, and especially serving others. Is there ever a bigger and better and more important time than us, you, me, all of us, to serve others? Only this morning I received an email from the house of worship I attend, and it said that one of our congregants, one of our members, came down with the viral flu. There's not much we could do as individuals except pray and hope for speedy recovery of that individual, and send them an email saying, if you need anything at all, whether it's food or whatever necessity you need, let us know. We'll have it delivered to your home. We're all of us in this together. We must serve each other. Well, the reason I wanted to do this special program was to tell you how I think we can serve others, particularly during this pandemic. There are many things that we probably can do that we couldn't think of. Now, we do expect the government to help the hungry, not only help the hungry, help the unemployed, and get things back to as normal as possible. Well, normal as possible may never happen as long as we have this pandemic surrounding us. Living at home alone is something most of us haven't experienced. Unfortunately for me, I've had to experience it for over 2 months, long before the pandemic came into the United States. My beautiful wife, who we have been married together for 71 years, has been in the hospital for 3 to 4 months. with a lung disease. It is not the flu. It is not the viral epidemic. But she has not been able to live the hospital care. And we have caretakers around the clock trying to assist her. And I have been alone all this time, and loneliness is not very pleasant at all. You like to see a smiling face or hear a chuckle or be able to have a conversation with someone, especially someone you love or someone you care for, a child, a wife, a friend. A lot of us will be upset and annoyed and disgruntled. Don't let it get you down, ladies and gentlemen. Just think of those who are locked up for I don't know how long. Locked up because of this pandemic that is killing not only people around the world, but now in the United States that has risen to the number of cases. And that means the number of deaths that will be surrounding us. Our responsibility is to follow the rules that the law has provided. The first thing was to lock down and be safe. Stay 6 feet away from anybody else. Be sure that you wash your hands thoroughly. Be sure that you distill everything that you touch and disinfect it. It's important. We are at war. I'm a World War II veteran. And you learn at war, your responsibility is to kill the enemy. You must kill the enemy. And you learn, I was 17 and 18 years old when I first got into the military. And I'm in the South Pacific, and I look across a river, and I see Japanese military people shooting at us, and we're shooting back at them. And I'm saying, I bet that guy isn't much older than me. I bet he has a mom and dad worried about him. I bet he might have a girlfriend thinking about him. He's trying to kill me. And my assignment is to kill him. He thinks of me as the enemy, and I know he is the enemy. That's the only time when you learn how important it is to take the most drastic steps to kill the enemy. I was in Borneo at the time, close to Japan, when we dropped the atomic bomb and wiped out civilization. Nobody was alive. Nobody. No dogs, no cats, no human beings, no children. That's what it took to end a war. We're fighting a bug that we don't see. I originally came up with a plan that I thought, yes, we have to lock down, of course, to try to stay safe. It's a measure of protection. But I still thought, why are we not going after killing the enemy, the bug itself? People say it came off a rat of some kind, and that bug has just expanded and grown throughout the world. I don't know that. I'm not a scientist. But my thought was, raise as much money as we can and give it to every scientist, every person that knows how to investigate and identify who that bug is, where that bug is, and how can we kill the enemy. I wrote to almost anybody and everybody in the government that I could think of, both local, statewide, and nationally. I sent my email to leaders of the various faiths, and I gave them a deadline, a 48-hour deadline. Not one person responded. Why? Well, who the heck is Earl? We don't know him. Okay, so he was an advertising genius. He's in the Advertising Hall of Fame. He's the first marketer to be nationally recognized. They don't care. They don't care that I've been solving solutions, difficult solutions. I'm going to give you only one example. I think it's particularly of importance. One day I received a telephone call from the wife of one of our clients, and she said she would like to come over and visit. Well, you wouldn't say no to a client's wife, so I said, please, come on over right away. She said, I'll bring 3 other ladies. You're all welcome. Hurry up. Didn't take very long. Bang, bang, they're in my office. I sit them down around my conference table. The lady that had called was the wife of Weingarten Supermarkets that had 300, 350 or 75 stores in the local area. Another lady was a philanthropist, well known in the Catholic community. Everybody in Houston knew her. And there was a nun along with them. And the 4th lady was a lady that ran the Foundation for the Blind. And my wife worked with her. So I was aware of all of those people, with the exception of not knowing the nun before then. And I said, ladies, please tell me why you wanted to see me. And they said, Earl, we want to end hunger. Ladies, a noble cause. But why do you think I could help? Earl, if anyone could come up with a solution, you can. You've been doing it for things and products and services. You can do it. I said, well, you're being very flattering to me. I've not heard this particular problem. Give me a minute or so to think. I have an idea. You have all of those stores, women by the millions coming in weekly. The stores are lined with shelves of perishable and non-perishable foods. Why don't we invite those ladies to do from the bottom of their heart, take a perishable item and put it in a barrel, and we will collect those barrels and bring the processes of the products to shelters that feed the hungry. Earl, that's a great idea. Well, I can't imagine a black barrel like we have in Houston that we send oils and all kinds of ingredients, lubricants overseas. I think if we had an attractive, maybe red barrel, it will call attention to it with a little sign above it. Help feed the hungry. Donate 1 or 2 non-perishable foods. One of the ladies raises her hand suddenly and she says, I have an uncle that manufactures those barrels for the oil industry. I said, could you ask him please to donate a couple of barrels, but paint them red rather than black? The black would not be attractive. She said, I'm going to call him immediately. Well, from that humble little start, we got those barrels, put them into all of those Weingarten supermarkets, put the signs on it, and let me tell you, those ladies, from the generosity from their hearts, donated box after box or can after can of soups and other non-perishables until the barrels were loaded and we started to bring them to shelters that feed the hungry after preparing the foods. I'm only trying to make this one point. You plant a seed, and that little group of ladies watered it, and that seed began to grow. Unfortunately, those ladies at that time, which was the 1980s, all passed away because we were all of that same age. I've been lucky, blessed, that God has allowed me to stay on this earth till this day at 93. And then I saw that little seed that started to grow became a little bit thicker and became a stalk. And that stalk spread out with branches. And then God was kind enough to send down rain and sunshine, and those branches blossomed out into bouquets of flowers. And God said, I'm going to spread the seeds of those bouquets. And he blew on it, and then blew on them, and the seeds spread from coast to coast and shore to shore. Today, from that very humble beginning of planting a seed, it became the Houston Food Bank, the food bank, which is today the largest in the United States, feeding more people daily, and it has spread to other food banks throughout the United States, duplicating that effort. All I'm trying to point out is, if we start maybe one or two places with doing the right thing, ladies and gentlemen, it can spread across the country, and we could wipe out that bug which is killing us. Only this morning, I received an email from my house of worship announcing to all the congregants that one of the congregants had visited to the temple and left, and within 2 days came home sick with the disease, now confined to the house. Will that one person be a seed that spreads to others and others, which is happening throughout the world? Today, the United States, if I understand correctly, has more cases of people with the disease than any other country. We could have stopped it. Okay, I'm putting my foot into it by saying we were aware of what was going on in China and Italy and other countries. And our leader said it's a democratic hoax. And we didn't do what was necessary. We didn't get prepared. We weren't ready. We didn't have the face masks. We didn't have the ventilators. We didn't have our doctors and medical people alert. We didn't have all the ventilating machines that are needed. Why? Foolishness. Don't think just because I'm a Democrat, I'm a liberal. I'm really just a humanitarian. Remember what my moral code said? Serve others. Serve others. We are put on earth to help our brothers and sisters wherever they are. It doesn't matter if they're in Italy or in India or in South Africa or in the United States. It could be Indiana. It could be Illinois. It doesn't matter. We are obligated to help everyone on this earth. Okay, you're one of those liberal Democrats. You want to give away money to everybody and anybody. What is money good for? If it can buy things to save lives? Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to go to heaven, do you think money is going to open up the pearly gates? It's what you do with your money today to help your family, to help your friends, and to help your strangers, because we are all God's children. I don't care if you have white skin like me, or your skin color is black, brown, yellow, red. God's child, whatever your skin color. It doesn't matter what faith you have, what gender you have, how old you are, or how young you might be. We are all God's children. We have an obligation to serve one another. I need to serve you, and you need to serve me, and you need to serve anybody and everybody we can. We are looking for handouts from the government. They're not handouts. It's money we donated to the government through our tax system. Which brings up a question in my mind, and I know I'm going off track. Why hasn't our president ever shown his taxes? Every other president has. Is it that he's afraid to show that he's never paid taxes? He isn't like you and me. We put in our share of what we earn to help the country grow and prosper and feed and house others. We have a moral obligation to love thy neighbor. In the time of the Hebrews, in the Old Testament, love thy neighbor, and your neighbor will love you. 5,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, during the time of Jesus, in the New Testament, love thy neighbor, and your neighbor will love you. And Mark said, that is our most important commandment. Love thy neighbor, and your neighbor will love you. This time, during the pandemic, more than ever, lockdown or not, we must respect that commandment and love thy neighbor. Love thy neighbor. Don't complain. I know this is going to sound impossible to you to believe, but you lost a job. There's no income. I can actually tell you, I live that same situation. I live on my government pension from the war. I checked with the bank this morning. That pension always arrives in the bank on the 25th of the month. Today, zero. No pension money. I don't know what happened. Is it that whoever handles that has locked down? We are all equally going to be penalized one way or another. If you can't go to the store, you can't go shopping, you can't get your car filled with gas or whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, the advantage I have, and many other World War II veterans have, or people who lived through that, was we knew in order to win that war, we must sacrifice. There was no way to get sugar. You couldn't get flour. You couldn't buy anything without coupons that the government gave you. We lined up to get food, gasoline, everything. There wasn't a home, not a home, that didn't have an American flag out there because a boy down the street or a girl next door went off to war to fight that war to keep you safe and secure. We were patriotic. Everybody had that spirit of oneness. We are fighting an enemy, and we are in it together as one nation, under God, working together. And that is what I am asking each of us to do. Lockdown. I don't care. It is horrible. It's nerve-wracking. It's no more horrible than having bullets and bombs dropped around you. Believe me, it's no more horrible. It's not comfortable. I understand that. I've explained it to you. I'm waiting to see that smiling face. I want to hear that little laughter, be able to converse with my wife. hold hands, shop together, go to a movie, buy something out in a restaurant. I miss it. You miss it. But you're not alone. Understand, that house next door, the apartment upstairs, they're not alone either. If we all will respect one another and share the grief together and work together and stop complaining, things are going to get better. They always will. In the hands of the proper government, not only here, but throughout the world, we will support our scientists and those people who will develop a cure for that disease. I'm going to use another World War II example. Our president was Franklin D. Roosevelt. Franklin D. Roosevelt, none of us knew, was a polio victim, locked into a wheelchair. They didn't show him with the wheelchair. They never allowed him to be shown being pushed in his wheelchair. We thought he was as normal as any active person. And nobody was quite as commanding and spoke as beautifully and as eloquently as Franklin D. Roosevelt. He inspired us. He made us believe that we will win the war. He made us believe we have a responsibility, not only to the troops overseas, but as civilians. We have a responsibility to buckle up our belts and do what might be difficult and hard, but together, working as one nation under God, we can succeed, and we will succeed. I've witnessed it. I'm just pleading for everybody, no exceptions. Know that there is a part that you can do, that you can make this country proud again, strong again, willing to be the leader again, showing people we care. Now, the Democrats are having a runoff very soon to select a candidate to be president. And I had my own particular choice, but only this morning I said, well, after watching and listening to Mayor Cuomo of New York City, who is undergoing the most grave attack within his own community, speaking so positively, so encouraging, so rightfully right and strong, in my mind I said, that's the kind of president we need. A leader, one who inspires us to do what is right, one that tells us together we can end this pandemic. We can end the problem. Yes, we might have to take tax dollars away from the budget and distribute it to the poor, to the homeless, to the people who have lost jobs. It's our obligation. It's our responsibility. We have a confidence to make America great again. We have to work together and show that we want to work together again as one nation under God, trying to do our very best. Well, one suggestion I would have for whoever is going to be the president, I would start a campaign from day one. To copy God's message that is 5,000 years old, 2,000 years old, that is in your Bible, and your Bible, and your Bible, And even if you're an atheist or an agnostic, it doesn't care. What does care is it's a message, a spiritual message from what most of us believe is our guiding light throughout our lifetime, telling us what is wrong to avoid and what is right to try to do, not only for yourself, but for one another. And I would hope that our new president would install a program that would remind us all daily, everybody, young, middle class, rich and poor, to love thy neighbor. It's patriotic, just like what we did during World War II. It was patriotic to fight against that enemy and kill them. It will be patriotic to fight against the enemy, which is a disease, and kill it before it kills more of us. So if we did love thy neighbor, I say that is America to me. And if that candidate would say, I'm going to raise money by selling hats, t-shirts, I don't know whether you'll be able to see this. Love thy neighbor, that's America to me. And on the back, I have make every day Valentine's Day. Not for candy and cookies and roses, but to love thy neighbor. I don't know of a more important word in advertising or in communication is to say, I love you. We share wedding rings to show our love is not only for a moment, but forever, throughout our lifetimes. It's our lifetime with our families, our children, and our friends. Love. That's what we need more of. Not saying, oh, I'm not going to lock down. I've got to tell you. You're going to say, oh, he's a darn Democrat. I'm going to show you. I don't know whether you'll be able to read this. Waller County holds off stay at home. A conservative, what's his name? Oh, I'm not even going to give him the credit. But he is a conservative. And he says, we don't have to follow rules and regulations. Oh, no? Let me give you an example. We're all aboard a ship. And all of a sudden we hear an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, please go on the top deck. Get near one of our lifeboats. The ship is on fire. Our crew will help you get aboard that lifeboat and save your lives. And row as quickly as possible away from this fire. Act promptly. Everybody can save their lives. Hurry up. Get on board. Get up to the top deck as quickly and as soon as possible. And if there's somebody that is crippled or not possible to do it, give them a hand. Help one another. We're all in this together. Would somebody in that ship say, that's a rule. It's a request. It's a regulation. We don't have to do it. We could burn with the ship. That's the same theory of saying, oh, I'm driving in my car. There's a stop sign. I don't have to stop. I could plow through it. Maybe I'll hit a kid or another car will hit me. Doesn't matter. It's a rule. Don't have to follow it. Oh, a red light? Don't have to stop. I don't have to keep giving you simple examples that when there are rules and regulations and they have been passed and approved. We must follow those regulations. Just because you think the newspaper is a democratically inclined newspaper and is putting up a false hope? What are we coming to? I ask you, are we losing our mind? Let's be sensible. Let's do what is proper. We are all our brothers and sisters in this pandemic together. And if the government wants to give money out of our treasury to help feed those poor and homeless, please don't complain, as long as they're doing it properly and equally. But when I heard they wanted to give money to our biggest and most successful companies to keep their shares safe, I was upset. Those companies don't need help. It's we, the average person, we, the people, need help. And it is our money. We gave it to the government in a tax. And how many of those corporations, I'm questioning this, I don't know the answer, and how many of the people, like, not too many, but how many other people would refuse to show their income tax statement? Why? Because it will prove that they tried to cheat and did everything possible to pay as little as possible, as little as nothing? That's the question. Who would I trust? The guy who sweeps the streets, who's building a house hammer and by nail, and takes every dollar, and it isn't much, and yet he contributes his share to the government? Or to the guy who owns apartment houses throughout the world with golf courses, who may not have paid a penny? I could say may not. I don't know. If you don't show us your taxes, how the heck can we guess? Maybe you did pay your taxes, but why aren't you showing them? You want to see my taxes? I'll show it to you. You're going to be surprised how little it is. But it's every penny that was due the government. No cheating. And I'm sure that's true of you and you and you and each of you. I don't want to belabor this much longer. I said this was a quiz show. A quiz show that has an audience that isn't going to make any money in a contest. It's a quiz show to say, do you know what you're going to be doing? How are you going to be fighting this epidemic? If the government says lockdown, throw away your key and lock down. Have food ordered to the house. Do whatever you need to do. We have given you systems to beat the system of lockdown. It's not easy. I don't like it. I don't like it personally. So what? You're alive, Earl. And you're alive, Mr. and Mrs. America. And thank heaven, by being locked down, you may be avoiding, and possibly even destroying that disease because you're not allowing it to multiply and multiply and multiply. All I'm saying, every dollar, every effort should be given to anybody and everybody who has looked at ending diseases. I mentioned Franklin D. Roosevelt earlier on purpose, that he suffered with polio. But the moment he left office, He made money available to everyone to examine the cause of polio, and we eliminated it. Today in the United States of America, you don't hear of polio cases. Now, when I went to school in first, second grade, you walk into class, empty seat. Where is Mary? Where is Jane? Where is Joe? And the teacher would respond, they're now in a hospital in an iron lung for life, trying to beat a disease called polio. If we could do it for polio, we can do it for this pandemic. Give the time and the money and the effort to anybody, not only in the United States, but wherever they are. Any scientist, whether they're in Israel or Italy or wherever. Let them understand we will back them in that effort. Find the cure. And even when they find the cure, it will take weeks, months, maybe years to prove that the inoculation or whatever they have discovered will work. But unless we make a worldwide effort, we're sitting back and saying, it's going to disappear. God willing, together, working as one, as one nation, under God, we can regain liberty, justice, freedom, equality, and safety. Safety from diseases that are debilitating. And I mean for all. If we can develop that cure, we'll share it with the world. Otherwise, it won't spread from China to the next nation, to the next nation, and finally to us. And we have inherited the disease to be the greatest people, the widest number of people now suffering. You think that I'm joking? That it can't be done? You know very little about me. I have solved lots of problems. I mentioned that End Hunger program. I am probably the only living American that has his painting now sitting in the Vatican. And I'll show you an example of what it is. Can you read that? It says, the Pope of Hope. The Pope of Hope. How did that all come about? I, like all of us, when the Pope was here, riding around on Fifth Avenue in New York in his Pope-mobile, I watched him intently like you did. And I saw that Pope get out of his Pope-mobile, walk over to the crowd lining the street, and saw a mom cuddling a baby in her arms. He didn't look for his Secret Service people to protect him. He knows God is protecting him. He went over to that little baby and made a prayer over that child. And then got back into his Pope-mobile, waving to the crowd, giving them a big smile, a smile of confidence, a smile of inspiration, a smile that knowing all of us are God's children, and we will do the right thing. I was suggesting, and I'm not going to suggest this right now because we have other things that are priority, but I was hoping that I would sell these paintings. They come in 3 different sizes, and I would sell them on the internet at half price of what they would be in any store. A painting like this, which is, I think it's 24 by 24 inches. And I have to explain the background. I purposely didn't put angels and clouds on it. That background shows the Pope is in Argentina. when he was a priest. And it is a illustration from the internet. I took all of the photographs as the Pope was climbing up the ladder of success until he was literally, I think it's at this end of where he is sitting with Obama in the president's office. That was the path of success. Sitting with Obama, talking about how to make the world a safer, better place for all. And I thought, well, particularly the 80 million Catholics within the United States would be interested in having this little painting hanging on the wall. Okay, this would be $50, the medium size was $100, and the giant size, which is the one I sent to the Pope, would be $150. I would sell them at half price and guarantee that 20% of the money, 20% of that money would go to the scientists to inspire them and indulge them to want to work harder than effort, around the clock, find the cure that will wipe out this epidemic. I don't care how we do it, but together. Most of you are much smarter than I am. Together, we, whether it's lockdown or working hand in hand, we must come up with a cure. We are at war with the pandemic. To win a war, you must kill the enemy. Behind me, you see just some of my, relics and symbols of the war. If you saw the whole shelves and everything else around my apartment, you'd think it was a military museum. Because when you leave the service, it's tattooed in your mind. And it helped me in my business to make it successful. If I was turned down, that didn't mean the end. I came back, and I came back again, and I came back again. And I finally built an agency to become the largest independent advertising agency in the whole South, representing the largest advertising client in the world. That's why I asked that question before. I answered today's largest advertiser is the Catholic faith. That's why I turned to using the Catholic faith to be the seed to plant it, to get the money started. But what I'm really saying, the seed to get it started is you, and you serving others, knowing that if there is somebody ill that you know, send them an email, call the house, ask them what they need, and voluntarily have it delivered to them. We are in this war together. And I was inspired this morning to hear Mayor Como having a number of his troops in front of him, thanking them, praising them, saying, you are doing the work that we need, and loving them, and showing them his admiration for what they are sacrificing and what we need to sacrifice as one nation under God to end this pandemic together. I'm not going to keep repeating the same word. All I'm going to say, I'm going to close my eyes for a minute and allow me to make a private prayer to God. And if you don't mind, you can do it in your own way. So please, join me for 30 seconds. Amen, God. Ladies and gentlemen, all I can say is, together, as one people, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice, freedom, and equality for all, we, no matter how long or how hard it may take, we will beat this endemic. And I am only going to say, God bless you, and everyone. Thank you.